Ambassador Professor Reverend Dr. Colin O'Neill Jarrett from Jamaica, President and CEO of this 33-year-old institution. HECOIN, reaching people where they are, leading them to where they should go.
I shout your name, I praise your name, God. When I look at the mountains, the sky and sea, I shout your name, I praise your name.
Oh Lord, my God, you made humanity
a little less than your divinity.
Oh Lord, my God, we marvel, you are great. You crown us with your glory and your love.
I have found Come and Relax with HECOIN to be interesting and an insightful program. Wherever I am, I can't afford to miss the speakers and what they have to offer. When is the next program again?
Greetings and welcome to Come and Relax with HECOIN. I'm your host, Ambassador Professor Reverend Dr. Colin O'Neill Jarrett from Jamaica. Let me thank the following media houses for airing Come and Relax with HECOIN: RCP Internet Radio and TV, YouTube and Facebook, TDN TV on vstreams.com, TDN TV on Facebook, TDN Network 1 on YouTube, UFDV Gospel, and DCM Internet Radio and TV. Our listening audience has been climbing every week. Thanks to you, we cherish your presence and hope that you will remain with us until death us do part. Continue sharing this link with others. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
My name is Hazel Williams Blair, a graduate of HECOIN Montego Bay campus, Jamaica, where I did the 6-month Elderly Care International Diploma Level 2. During my time in the course, I was very excited to learn in class, and the teachers were precise and professional. We had fun, especially in the practical areas. I received credit in theory and distinction in practical, and I'm proud of myself. I was exposed to all the skills a practical nurse must know and learned about all the body system along with this bedside nursing. I am currently working in the field of nursing and love it a whole lot. I love the friendly payment plan that the school has in place, which made it more affordable. I highly recommend HECOIN to you, and I will talk about HECOIN as long as I live. All the best, HECOIN, with your online nursing classes. I thank you all.
Canadian employers for several decades have relied on temporary migrant workers from Mexico and 11 countries in the Caribbean to fill gaps in the country's agricultural labor market under the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program. Within recent weeks, a group of Jamaican farm workers sent a letter to the Jamaican government denouncing treatment of 2 Ontario farms, which they likened to systematic slavery and exploitation. Is this a new issue, or is it treatment that Jamaicans can no longer keep to themselves? Join guests on Come and Relax with HECOIN: Chris Ramserup, organizer of Justice for Migrant Workers in Canada, Robin Bunn of Rama, Okanagan, Canada, and Byron Cruz of Sanctuary Health, Vancouver, Canada. With host, media and marketing consultant, and professor of media studies for over 30 years, Ambassador Professor Reverend Dr. Colin O'Neill Jarrett from Jamaica, as he and his guest delve into the long-standing issues affecting farm workers in Canada with recommendations. The date to remember: Thursday, September 15, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Jamaica or 8:30 p.m. in other parts of the world on several media platforms to include RCP Internet Radio and TV, UFDV Gospel, DCM Internet Radio and TV, and all platforms of TDN. HECOIN, where your dreams can now be your reality. Welcome back. The promo that you heard a few seconds ago addressed a letter written to the Jamaican government about the inhumane conditions of Jamaican farm workers under the SAWP. In my research, there are other Canadian farm worker programs, hence saying the SAWP. In a follow-up response to the concerns by Jamaicans on the SAWP, now please listen to the response from the Jamaican government, which I will read. Jamaica's Labour Minister Carl Samuda has announced and dismissed suggestions that Jamaicans employed through the SAWP were exposed to subpar working conditions and mistreatment in Canada. His response came a week after farm workers in Canada complained about working long hours, verbal abuse and intimidation, and poor living conditions, including rats eating their food at 2 farms in the Niagara region. In a release Friday afternoon, Mr. Samuda stated that despite the claims, he had observed the opposite during a tour of 9 farms in 7 locations across Ontario, Canada, between August 14 and 16. According to the release, Minister Samuda said he observed very good relations among workers, between workers and their employers, and excellent rapport between workers and liaison officers. Now listen to this clip.
I found the trip very productive. I found that the program was well managed.
The minister further stated the relationship with Canadian employers will be strengthened. Hear this clip.
And we will do everything in our power to ensure that this relationship not only continues, but is strengthened.
Jamaica's Minister of Labour, Carl Samuda, clip taken from Jam Dung Paradise on YouTube. The minister said liaison officers are employed by the Jamaican government in Canada to safeguard the interests of Jamaican workers and address any challenge that they experience. He further stated that the liaison office will be strengthened by the employment of 3 additional workers in October 2022. The Honorable Minister said he observed no evidence of mistreatment. You hear me, listeners and viewers? No evidence. There we go again, claims and counterclaims. I want to start off my presentation today on Come and Relax with HECOIN with a PowerPoint presentation. We are having difficulties, so I'm going to have to read through the presentation, and it's about the Seasonal Agriculture Worker Program, SAWP, which the Canadians call SOAP, SAWP. I feel like operating like both an educator and a media practitioner tonight. Let's look at this presentation that I have put together for you so that you can get an understanding. Now, let's go through it. The SAWP, called SOAP by the Canadians, began in 1966. 60,000 to 70,000 persons pass through this system annually. At least one farm worker has been on the SAWP for 35 years. Canadian employers can hire temporary foreign workers having met Canadian requirements. Participating countries include Jamaica, Mexico, and several other Caribbean countries. Then the contracted period is for 8 months between January 1 and December 15. Minimum of 250 hours of work within a 6-week period. And usually it's about that. In 2017, there were approximately 550,000 workers in Canada. This number is 2.9% of total employment. The major concerns of Jamaican farm workers: poor housing, poor condition, rooms are crowded and there is no privacy. 45 people in a small room, no privacy at all. No amenities, no washing machines, dryers, air conditioning units, water heaters. They don't even have that. We're talking about Canada. Some of these places are very cold and they're expecting you to use piped water. Long hours, people working for 89 days, 14 hours per day, non-stop. 89 days, 14 hours per day, non-stop. So they are working 7 days a week. Me not done yet. In English, I'm not yet finished. They feel like they are in prison, treated like mules, punished for not being quick on the job. Long hours without adequate break periods, even for restroom. There was a complaint of a young lady working for 14 hours and can't even go to the bathroom. That's what kind of nonsense is. Work treatment, verbally abused by bosses, as well as physical intimidation, threaten to send workers home if they lodge any complaints to authorities, destruction of personal property if they talk. Other concerns, exposed to dangerous pesticides without proper protective gears, what you call PPGs or PPEs. Then you call they are exposed to rats that eat their foods. When I saw this, I just smirked. I'm saying, what nonsense is this? Jamaicans don't live this way. So we are not expecting to go to other countries. And we are faced with this. The important facts of the Jamaican workers in Canada: approximately 2.7 million persons enter Canada annually. We are not talking about Jamaicans now, because we couldn't have 2.7 million people leaving Jamaica to go there, because we only have 2.8 in Jamaica. So it would be only 100,000. So please understand that 2.7 million persons entering Canada annually represents approximately 1 in 23 persons in the country. 500,000 migrants are unaccounted for. Salaries for farm workers. Salary for farm workers is approximately 2,200 Canadian dollars per month. And I know many of you want to know the Jamaican, and that is 250,000 Jamaican dollars. Most of them, of course, from province to province, it may be a little lower, but we have heard of farm workers who are working $2,200 per month, which that is approximately $200,000 per month in Jamaican currency. We are not finished yet. Now, what can be done with the farm workers in terms of understanding how they proceed? They need to impress upon Prime Minister Trudeau when Parliament reopens on September 19. To deal with the permanent immigration status for migrants and refugees and students. So they need some permanence with their residency in Canada. This will enable families to be reunited and live together as families, because that's what Canada promotes: good family life. So let's say it. You are speaking this. Let's put it into practice. Enjoy benefits. Once they are now under permanent situation, they can enjoy benefits of health, being able to join workers' union, go to institutions like schools, universities, and enjoy employment benefits. Work closely with migrants to make this a reality. So you have to go and work with the migrants once you're living there in this kind of situation to ensure that it comes through. And you need to support all forms of rallies. And Byron will speak about that at the ending of the program, supporting rallies that are organized for a few Sundays from today. As a matter of fact, Sunday coming, organized so that your voices can be heard collectively. So these are just some areas that I thought prudent to get out, so that you know, so that it sets the pace for discussion. You see, I'm an educator at heart, so I want to ensure that as a teacher, I set the pace for discussion. Now let's take a break. We'll be right back to hear from more guests on Come and Relax with HECOIN.
Health Education and Counseling Institute HECOIN offers certificates in housekeeping, food and beverage, customer care, security guard, events planning, and many other short courses, which are all offered online with 8 intakes each year. Visit www.hecoinglobal.com or call our WhatsApp 876-223-7204. HECOIN, reaching people where they are, leading them to where they should go.
A timely devotion with a difference, called A Word in Time, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9 a.m. Join His Excellency, Professor Reverend Dr. Colin O. Jarrett from Jamaica, bringing a mix of sacred gospel music along with the spoken word. That's A Word in Time, a breath of fresh air on this station, Royal Central Praise SKB. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 9 a.m., repeated at 9 p.m. A Word in Time, a breath of fresh air. Welcome back in the guest room of Come and Relax with HECOIN to look at long-standing issues affecting Jamaican farm workers on the SOAP are Miss Robin Bunn, Radical Action with Migrants in Agriculture, REMA, Okanagan Collective, British Columbia, Mr. Chris Ramsaroop, Organizer for Justice for Migrant Workers, and Mr. Byron Cruz, Sanctuary Health, Vancouver, all in Canada. For convenience, we conducted telephone interviews earlier this week with the three guests. So I want you to understand that so we would get the minds of all of them, because as you know, Canada throughout the provinces have different time zones. So we will start with Robin Bunn. Great having you in studio, Robin Bunn, virtually. Come and relax with HECOIN. Now, hi, Robin. Tell us about REMA and the mandate of your company.
Not-for-profit group.
Now, Robin, thank you for that information. What do farm workers do on Canadian farms?
When workers come to Canada to work on farms through the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program or other temporary foreign work programs, they can be asked to do anything that's considered farm work. So that would include any of the pruning, planting, harvesting, and other work in the fields, as well as regular maintenance type things to do with the orchards in the fields, or even just around the farm, which can include like mechanical things or fixing equipment. All of that is considered farm work. Oftentimes workers are asked to do things that are not considered farm work, but because they are asked by their employer, they're still expected to do those things, which can include other sort of improvements to the property or work for their neighbors doing other things other than farm work.
Okay. How does the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program, SOAP, benefit Canadian farm employers?
The SOP program benefits Canadian farm employers by giving them access to a reliable and steady pool of labor that they wouldn't be able to find domestically, locally. It also benefits them in that they also get to set a lot of the conditions at work and the living conditions, and they are the ones who get to choose who they would like to come to their farm, whether they would like those particular workers to come back to their farm, for how long the workers are employed with them. Most of the decisions are made by the employer.
Where do most migrant farm workers working in Canada originate from? And what is the minimum wage per month for these workers?
The two largest sending nations sending farm workers to Canada are Mexico and Jamaica, followed by Guatemala and some other Caribbean nations as well. Workers do get paid the minimum wage per hour in Canada, which is now, I believe it's $15.25, or at least it was last year. So they get paid $15.25 per hour, or they get paid by what we call piece rate, which means they get paid according to the amount that they pick during the day. And that, so they pick as much as they can, and then that gets weighed. And it depends also on what it is that they're harvesting. The piece rate is different for different fruits.
Interesting, Robin. Do you know how many Jamaican farm workers are currently on the SOAP at this time? And do they work in all provinces? How many have reached out to you for assistance?
No, we don't know exactly how many Jamaican farm workers are currently in the SOP right now. We don't have access to that data. What we estimate is that roughly 5,000 of the tens of thousands of workers that come to Canada each year end up in the Okanagan Valley. And usually the majority of those are workers coming from Mexico, but we estimate a quarter to a third are from Jamaica. They do work in all provinces. Most of the workers are going to Ontario, Quebec, and BC. And we always get lots of people reaching out to us for assistance, not just here in the Okanagan and BC, but all across Canada.
Thank you for that. How many farms has your company visited in recent months as a result of concerns raised by Jamaican farm workers? And in which provinces do these complaints come from?
Yes, so as I mentioned previously, there are many thousands of workers coming to the Okanagan, so we do not have contact with each and every single worker or even know where they're working or which farms they're at when they come. However, the ones that we have been visiting regularly over the past few years are always raising similar concerns, mostly about their housing conditions, working conditions, feelings of being exploited and not having their rights being followed or feeling that they're treated fairly. We know that this is not just a case of the workers who are coming to the Okanagan. We are in connection with many, many other migrant justice groups like ours across Canada, and we know that these issues are widespread and that they impact workers across Canada when they come.
All right, so the next question will be a B to that. Many Jamaican workers on the SOP have complained about the inhumane working conditions, which have been for a very long time, and has been a long-standing issue. Can you bring us through the myriad of issues that the farm workers are facing at this time?
There are multiple challenges and issues that Jamaican workers face when they come to Canada to work in the SOP program. They complain about working conditions as well as living conditions because often workers are housed on the farm in whatever housing is available to them by their employer. They're often isolated, and there aren't usually a lot of people coming around to check and see what the conditions are like or how they're doing, or really enforce any of the rules and protections that are supposed to be in place to protect workers in Canada. So a lot of the complaints really come down to fairness and justice and being treated like second-class citizens when in actuality they are contributing greatly to our Canadian economies and Canadian society. And they do have equal rights to Canadian citizens, but they also don't have any way to exercise those rights or even know who to ask or where to go if they feel like their rights are being violated. So other things that they face are social isolation. So they're often not included in community events. So part of what RAMA does is to make sure that we have socials and find ways to get workers off the farm and socializing with other workers and with community members in the Okanagan so that it starts to feel a little bit more like home. And then it gets them to know the area a little bit better and gets them to know people so that they can ask questions if they need to.
Very important for their own survival too. Are Jamaican farm workers the only seasonal workers experiencing these inhumane conditions? Expound on your answer, please. You sound like a teacher today, but
no,
that's fine.
Jamaican farm workers are certainly not the only seasonal workers who experience inhumane conditions. There are multiple factors that contribute to this. What we hear from workers, from Jamaican particularly, is that they are also subject to racist stereotypes and particular kinds of anti-Black discrimination when they enter our communities that other seasonal workers don't face. They face different challenges based on where they come from and who they are. So yeah, the challenges for Jamaican workers can be particularly related to racism that they face in Canada.
Racism all the time. In conversing with our farm workers, do you think their complaints are by far unreasonable? Would Canadian citizens put up with these inhumane conditions of work?
I believe that any complaints that farm workers are voicing are absolutely reasonable. And we've seen a lot of the conditions that people are living and working under. And we often will encourage workers to speak up. We know that that's a risk for them. It's a risk of losing their job for the season. It's a risk of being kicked out of the program. But the things that they're dealing with are not anything that anybody would be expected to put up with, especially not a Canadian citizen.
Interesting comment. Very interesting. Have they complained of concerns with the Jamaican liaison service in Canada? What issues have they raised?
A lot of the workers that have shared with us how they feel about the Jamaican liaison service, particularly here in the Okanagan, is that they don't feel that there's a lot of trust. They're not fully thinking that the liaison is there to help them or serve them. And so they're often reluctant to go to the liaison for help with issues when they arise.
Mhm. What recommendation would you make to the government of Jamaica to improve this SOP?
I think there's several things that the Jamaican government could do to improve the experience of Jamaican workers who come through the SOP. One of the things that the government could contribute to is the details in their contracts. Right now, a lot of the information or the stipulations in the contract around, say, housing conditions or other things around their work conditions are really vague and open to a lot of interpretation by employers. So some input there from the government of Jamaica and from the workers themselves would be really, really beneficial to workers, as well as making a process of complaints or raising these issues a lot more streamlined, ensuring anonymity or at least confidentiality, and protecting workers who do come forward from some of the risks that have been involved in the past, like their contracts ending.
I totally agree with you because we have heard of complaints where workers are just given a document to sign, a contract to sign, and if they don't sign it, then they are on the next plane back to Jamaica. Do you think the Jamaican workers are adequately prepared for working on the farms in Canada?
I think that Jamaican workers are definitely well prepared to work on Canadian farms. The work they're more than capable. They're hard workers, of course, and they come prepared to do the work. I think that what comes up in terms of the social isolation, the discrimination and unfairness that they face is maybe something that they don't expect. But I also don't believe that we should be preparing people for things like that necessarily. I think that we should be working and striving towards improving those conditions so that workers don't have to face those situations when they come in the future.
Totally agree with you, Robin. Thumbs up to you for that particular answer. We know we are hard workers. Do you have any tips that you would give to prospective Jamaicans, although it might be difficult, who are seeking to work on the SOP?
I don't really have any tips that I would give prospective Jamaicans who are seeking to work in the SOP program. What I would like to say is once you arrive in Canada, know that there are groups like Rama and like Justicia for migrant workers who are there to help you navigate problems, deal with issues, and just help try to make the time that you spend in Canada a little bit better. So please seek out those groups. There is help available.
Very well. You have provided a wealth of information to us at this time, Robin. Thank you, Robin Bond, for answering the questions from Come and Relax with HECOIN.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Professor Colin Jarrett, for having us on your program. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about these issues. And we thank you again for helping to raise awareness among Jamaicans who might be working under the SOP program. For anyone who would wish to contact us, our phone number or WhatsApp number is 250-215-3415 if you know that you're coming to work in BC. And our email address is ramaokanagan@gmail.com. That's RAMAOKANAGAN@gmail.com. Thank you.
You're most welcome, Robin. Great having you on this program. Listeners and those viewing, you have heard the questions and answers surrounding the unfair treatment received by Jamaican workers on the SOP in Canada. Come and Relax with HECOIN has provided the questions and answers yet again. Wow, this needs to be shared with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security again and again. Madam Permanent Secretary and the Honorable Minister, are you listening? Today's show will be uploaded on YouTube in less than 30 minutes after the show ends on CARWH, which is the acronym for Come and Relax with HECOIN, and Central Praise SKB, and also on Facebook at Central Praise SKB Radio/TV Talk. And please remember to hit the subscribe button. It shows that you are watching us and you will continue to do so. When we return, we will hear from Chris Ransoup, organizer for Justice for Migrant Workers in Canada. He will have his own perspective on this issue. Stay tuned. You will need some water. Grab your bottle of water during this break. Do not move. We have much more coming up on Come and Relax with HECOIN. Soon come. Do you want to study in a recession-proof career online? Health Education and Counseling Institute HECOIN offers international diplomas in phlebotomy technician, emergency medical technician, dental technician, and pharmacy technician, which are internationally recognized. We have intakes every other month. Visit www.hecoinglobal.com or call our WhatsApp 876-223-7204. HECOIN, your dreams can now be your reality. Royal Central Praise RCP Internet Radio and TV in St. Kitts invites you to listen to Caribbean News Brief CNB on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m. Join Caribbean veteran in news production and news presentation for over 30 years, Ambassador Professor Reverend Dr. Colin O'Neill Jarrett from Jamaica, for reliable and comprehensive news in the Caribbean. CNB on RCP every Tuesday and Friday at 10 in the morning. RCP, the breath of fresh air. Thank you for sticking and staying with us on Come and Relax with HECOIN. About to speak with Chris Ramsuru, organizer for Justice for Migrant Workers in Canada, who has over 20 years experience in the business and lectures in the country too. Earlier, we heard from Robin Bunn of Radical Action with Migrants in Agriculture, RAMAR Okanagan Collective in British Columbia, Canada. Now, farm workers have been coming forward to make their voices heard on the inhumane conditions that exist on Canadian farms. When Jamaicans speak, we all listen. No disrespect to Robin, Chris, and Byron, but that's just the reality of us. I can speak for us Jamaicans. When we hear our own say, this may go through, people are going to listen. Not true Jamaicans and Caribbean people? Now, after Labour Minister Carl Samuda reported that all is going well, hear me out clearly, let me put up my glasses. All is going well with farm workers in Canada. Jamaican farm workers who heard the statements by the minister, the honorable minister, were livid and penned letters and did interviews with media houses. On Friday, September 2, 2022, that was just last week, A press release said, and I quote, "A fact-finding mission has been appointed by Labour Minister Carl Samuda to investigate the working conditions of Jamaicans employed under the Canadian Farm Work Program." A brief statement from the Labour Minister says the 6-member tripartite team will travel to Canada to observe operations. The team will speak with the workers and provide a report to Minister Samuda. End of quote. However, on Sunday, September 11, another article, this time in the Jamaica Observer, the Jamaica Liaison Service, through its head, Mr. Kenneth Phillips, hear me out well, Mr. Kenneth Phillips was able to rescue Jamaicans from 4 farms, and the workers are now in new farms and are very happy, says one of the farm workers, Andrew Taylor. I like to quote, remember, many of you know me in the media. I am not sure whose report I should believe. Thank you, Chris, for joining us in this discussion and hoping that you are well and can help us. Thank you so much, Chris, having come to us in your busy schedule. Welcome to Come and Relax with HECOIN, and thank you for joining us in this discussion. Now, Chris,
Professor Jared.
Is it good news that the government of Jamaica will be sending a fact-finding mission to Canada soon?
I think these are concerns that should have been addressed many years ago. And it's not just simply the government of Jamaica undertaking a fact-finding mission. Canada cannot be a bystander to this process. The burden is on Canada to resolve these issues, as the program operates in Canada and is subjected to both provincial and federal rules. So it is not a fact-finding mission. It's not a good news. It could be an attempt to try to whitewash what is currently ongoing in Canada.
Not good news at all. Wow. What are the terms of reference? You know that you're a business person too, Chris. So let's look at the terms of reference items. What would you want to see in the fact-finding mission to make this a useful exercise?
The fact-finding mission, there's quite concerns that it could be an attempt to whitewash what's currently ongoing. Second of all, Canada can't be a bystander. They have to be an active and equal partner as the program operates in Canada under the auspices of the Temporary Foreign Worker Program. So it's a Canadian responsibility, and Canada cannot be a bystander to this entire process. So terms of reference must immediately address the issues that workers are raising. And second of all, must include Canada. And the third aspect is we're still talking to workers to see what they want to ensure that this process just simply doesn't take their anger and place it elsewhere, and issues are not addressed.
Our liaison officer 2 weeks ago, and we're talking about the Jamaica liaison officer, senior liaison officer in Canada, said 2 weeks ago on another radio platform that he has never heard these complaints before. I hope you hear me, Chris, and listeners and viewers. He has never heard of these complaints before that the complaints that were published in the newspaper recently. Yet the same person questioned Mr. Kenneth Phillips in the article read moments ago stated that workers have been transferred from one farm to the next because of inhumane working conditions. However, none of the 4 farms was named. Could this ever be true, Chris? And what do you have to say about this?
There's been systemic issues happening for over 20 years, and these are the 20 years that I've been involved, and prior to that. So there's no way anybody could say that the issues about inhumane working conditions or living conditions are not true. This has been happening for decades. Workers have taken to pen, taken to protest, taking to exposing conditions for generations. So all of the concerns that have been brought up in the last couple of weeks are not new issues. So there's no way anybody in Canada can say at this point that the issues that workers are exposing are new to them.
Thank you for that one, Chris. Do you know if these concerns or issues are widespread and being felt in the more than 600 farms on this program? Are immigration rules tied to one employer in Canada? What if workers are injured? Are they sent home? What of health and safety laws in Canada? Sorry for asking you so many questions in one, Chris, but I know you can handle it.
The issues are very widespread, and it's not just simply with issues faced by Jamaican workers, but by all workers under the temporary foreign worker program in both agricultural streams, the seasoned agricultural worker and the low skilled agricultural streams. Both streams have multiple concerns because workers are tied to an employer. They constantly face the threat of repatriation and disbarment for exerting their rights in the workplace. So this is a systemic issue, and it's not about a few good or bad employers. And health and safety laws do not protect workers. Agriculture is one of the most dangerous occupations, and there are no industry-specific regulations in the province of Ontario to protect farm workers.
Agriculture is one of the most dangerous industries. Interesting. Given the concerns of farm workers, they have been asked by the Ministry of Labour Liaison Service to email concerns to a particular email address or to the Canadian Authority Integrity Services branch. How can the workers speak out without the fear of being sent home hanging over their heads? Are the farm workers being paid for hours worked, especially on holidays like Labor Day last week, Monday?
The workers are not being paid holiday pay, even though they're entitled after working 13 weeks in provinces like Ontario and engaging with over 50% of the time as harvesting. Workers will not exert their rights for holiday pay as a result of the threat of retribution from their employers. We've been over the last 2 weeks talking to hundreds of workers about this right, and all the workers know that they will not exert it. So workers consistently are under the threat of repatriation and disbarment, which is how the program operates and why it's successful for employers and government officials, because very few workers under the system itself will speak up for their rights to protect it.
Understandable. How frustrated are you, Chris, with these issues being on the table year after year? Will your organization be seeking audience with a fact-finding mission?
It's more critically important for workers to be engaging the fact-finding mission if they choose to. Our position is that the governments of Jamaica, the governments of the Caribbean, the governments of Mexico, the governments of Canada know what the issues are. It's time that both at the federal level and provincial level, steps are taken to protect workers, so no workers return home in caskets, or workers are not injured because of unsafe working conditions. The program operates as a result of an asymmetrical power imbalance, where the employers run the program, they operate the program, and they act as employer who can terminate, evict, and deport workers whenever they so choose to.
Whenever they choose to. Wow. What concerns do you have with the Jamaica Liaison Program? Do they protect the Jamaican workers? Are they taking on the hardcore complaints or any complaint, as a matter of fact, for our workers? Do our workers find refuge in organizations like the one you work with?
The concerns about the liaison officers is that they're here to protect the program, not the workers. We continue to tell workers to inform the liaison of these conditions that they're facing, but we see little action to protect workers. They're simply here to protect the remittances structure and ensure that workers, there's enough farms with workers from their corresponding country to participate, but they do not address the systemic issues or the individual concerns that workers are bringing up, whether it's racism in the workplace, violations around wage theft or health and safety, or injuries in the workplace. The liaison officers do not effectively address those systemic issues.
Robin said the same thing, and here you are too, Chris, saying the same thing. Have you been receiving calls from the Jamaican workers of the sort of dismissal since the situation of inhumane working conditions have been brought to public attention in Canada in the last 2 weeks?
We continue to receive calls of concern from Jamaican workers and workers from other countries for the entire season. And right now, because it's harvest time, there's a heightened concern. Workers are being sent home early Workers are being injured, and we're also hearing from workers who are no longer in the program, who've been disbarred from the program. So there's multiple, in the last weekend, anywhere from 20 to 30 workers have reached out to me individually to talk about these concerns, not just Jamaican workers, but from workers from multiple countries. And this is just in a short span of a couple of days.
Thank you, Chris, for your input in this interview discussion on issues affecting Jamaican farm workers in Canada under the SOP. Was slavery really abolished or was it redesigned? Historians can help me out. Listeners and viewers, can you please help me on this? You know, the CHCH News spoke with Kent Forth, a Canadian farmer who employs migrant workers, Canadian employer, sorry, who employs migrant workers and is part of the Ontario Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. He says there are multiple levels of inspection and oversight by the Canadian authorities. Hear what he has to say in this clip.
It's not slave labor. These guys, we have to comply to the Employment Standards Act and all those things. They're covered by workman's compensation. It's just a really good program that unfortunately somebody wants to ridicule. And why do they want to do that? Because they want to unionize them. And in simple terms, they want their money.
Wow. There you go, listeners. This clip was from CHCH News. I'm giving them the accreditation for this. Two invigorating interview discussions from two experts in Canada speaking on the seasonal agricultural worker program SOP. When will all these issues come to an end and our farm workers work in a comfortable atmosphere? We know it can't be like home, but come on, man, the conditions can be much better. But before you go, I have interesting, relevant news for you that there will be rallies this Sunday in Canada and additional days, but I will allow Byron Cruz of Migrant Workers' Rights in Canada to speak with you now. He will also share his experience dealing with workers who have been humiliated in several ways. Byron, you may see me in Canada, soon. I feel like taking the plane and join you in this fight for better treatment of our own Jamaican workers and farm workers on the SOP. Over to you, Byron, as we listen to you.
Hello, Ambassador, Professor Harriet, and listeners on Come and Relax with HECOIN. My name is Byron Cruz from Sanctuary Health in Vancouver. I have been active organizing with the migrant communities to end this system of exploitation. Over the years, we have noticed that farm workers on the Seasonal Agricultural Workers Program and the AgStream program have been treated badly in most areas of work and accommodation. Whenever the workers complain about their conditions, very little or nothing has been done. Several migrant groups and institutions have expressed their concerns to the different governments, the different provincial governments, and the federal governments. Farm migrant workers from different countries, from Jamaica, from Mexico, from Guatemala, have faced the same problems. And some have died at work. Some have died at the house where they stay at. They are not being able to make use of these health and safety rights because the lack of permanent residence. On Sunday, the Migrant Rights Network and allies will meet in different cities across Canada to make sure our voices are heard again to demand of a status for all through a regularization immigration program. We need to be sure that farm workers and other migrant workers get better conditions at work and proper accommodation. In Vancouver, we will meet at 2:30 p.m. at the Grandview Park on Commercial Drive. Please visit the Migrant Rights Network Facebook for more information on activities and in other cities. All migrant workers deserve to be treated with dignity, and we will continue to make sure migrant workers are treated well. It's time for change. Decades of exploitation must end. We are sending our messages to farms to construction sites, to many places. You are welcome to join us. You are welcome to join us to demand a status for all. Thank you, Ambassador Professor Harrett, for having me on this program. This is helping a lot in terms of spreading the message far and wide to the different audience. A status for all now, regularization now.
Wow. Thank you, Byron Cruz, for that information and for being on our program aired by approximately 1 million listeners and viewers on radio and TV in 250 countries. Yes, you heard it on Come and Relax with HECOIN. Come and Relax with HECOIN provided 3 invigorating interview discussions from 3 experts in Canada speaking on the Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program SOAP. When will all these issues come to an end and our farm workers operate in a comfortable atmosphere? I said it already. We know it can't be like home, but the conditions can be better. Let me thank Mr. Chris Ramsey, organizer for Justice for Migrant Workers, Miss Robin Bonner, Radical Action with Migrants in Agriculture, Raymar Okanagan Collective in British Columbia, and Mr. Byron Cruz, Sanctuary Health, all in Canada, for sharing with us today on this very important discussion or interview on inhumane experiences. We don't want to speak about it, but this is a reality. Inhumane experiences of Jamaican farm workers in Canada. I'm not too sure if St. Kitts and Nevis has workers coming from there. But I just mentioned because the major platform for this broadcast comes from RCP Internet Radio and TV, where Minister Leroy Weeks is the CEO and is watching and doing the production work in studio. Hats off to you, Leroy. You have always been with us, and I have to give you that promo. RCP Radio and TV, live from St. Kitts and Nevis, and that's one of the 250 countries. Jamaica is the second, and several other countries watching. For persons who wish to make a donation to Come and Relax with HECOIN and what's on for next week are in the queue. Stay tuned. Come and Relax with HECOIN is a feature of Health Education and Counseling Institute HECOIN, the premier online educational institution in the Caribbean. For individuals, companies, and foundations that wish to donate or contribute to this program, which is primarily to provide solutions to the worldwide issues of the day, please call in or WhatsApp your donation. 1-876-223-7204 on Thursdays between 8:30 p.m. and 10 p.m. EST, or during work hours Monday through Friday 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. EST, or email president@hecoinglobal.com. HECOIN, reaching people where they are, leading them to where they should go. Charles III is King of the United Kingdom and 14 other Commonwealth realms, including Jamaica. He acceded to the throne on September 8, 2022, upon the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. He was the longest-serving heir apparent in British history at age 73 and is the oldest person to assume the throne. The sad news of the passing of Queen Elizabeth II marks the beginning of the reign of King Charles III. The transition period has already seen questions raised about whether we can expect the new king to be interventionist. Come and Relax with HECOIN, the voice of Health Education and Counseling Institute, the premier online training institution in Jamaica, the Caribbean, and the world, will look at the reality of the new king's reign, which is said to be very difficult and a lot less controversial. Join a team of experts with host, marketing and media consultant, and professor of media studies for over 30 years, Ambassador Professor Reverend Dr. Colin O'Jarrett, on Thursday, September 22, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. in Jamaica and 8:30 p.m. in other parts of the world on several media platforms to include RCP Internet Radio and TV, UFDV Gospel, DCM Internet Radio and TV, and all platforms of TDN. HECOIN, reaching people where they are, leading them to where they should go. Wow, wow. Welcome back, and let me thank the following stations for sharing the platform and for making this program available to you. RCP Internet Radio and TV, YouTube and Facebook, TDN TV on vstreams.com, TDN TV on Facebook, TDN Network 1 on YouTube, UFDV Gospel, and DCM Radio and TV on all its platforms. Today's show will be uploaded in a few minutes from now on YouTube, perhaps in 30 minutes from now on CARWH, the acronym for Come and Relax with HECOIN. That's CARWH, just put car and then WH, and Central Praise SKB, and the B for SKB's Bassetier. That's the capital of St. Kitts. So it's Central Praise SK, which is St. Kitts, and B for Bassetier. And also on Facebook, on Central Praise SKB Radio /TV Talk. And please remember to hit the subscribe button. Please remember to hit the subscribe button. We are still in Jamaica 60, and so I will leave a beautiful poem written by Joan Andrea Hutchinson, Laugh Jamaica, Rapunzel, done in the Jamaican language. A thought for you this week: it is easier to treat people properly than to repair broken relationships. Powerful statement indeed. Join us this and every Thursday at this time for Come and Relax with HECOIN, sponsored by HECOIN. I am Ambassador Professor Reverend Dr. Colin O'Neill Jarrett, the proud president and CEO, and in the second generation of leadership of this 33-year-old flagship training institution in Jamaica, the Caribbean, and beyond, Health, Education, and Counseling Institute, HECOIN. Please now receive the benediction. May the strength of God sustain us. May the power of God preserve us. May the hands of God protect us. May the will of God direct us. May the love of God go with us this day, now, and forevermore. Amen and amen. Walk good, my friend.
Mommy, I'm coming, man. I just have to go outside and cook my daddy here first, and then now we come inside. Come on, man. Come. Ready? Oh, Rapunzel. Oh, all right. Here, want to come. Rapunzel. Rapunzel. Rapunzel, today you and I are going to have that little mommy and daughter talk, you know? Rapunzel, you are such a pretty little girl. You're a nice little girl. You're kind and you're sweet and you're talented like your mommy. You're ambition like your mommy. But there's only one thing wrong with you, Rapunzel. One thing wrong with you. You're here. Look how I go and make sure that I did with a nice like a brown skin straight hair man. I was so sure that your hair was going to tall down into your back like River Maiden. I even named you Rapunzel before you're born. And you have to come take your mommy here. I wicked, you wicked, so pick me. Now you are condemn me to a life of my hand miggle and my finger head them a blister every day if you creep up this boarded to send you go to school. But it's all right, man. Any day, name day I cannot manage, I'm going to carry it to the hairdresser and make them cream it out and put in a tall like a brown weave so into your back because the school that I'm sending you to know is pure like a tall your brown skin children go to that school. So try remember me to buy the buckle of bleach for your face. Oh, and speaking of school, little miss, I have a thing or two I want to say to you. When you go to school, you see, you have to learn to look and listen. Did you hear me? Hello. What did I said? I said you have to learn to look and listen. You look and you see which children's them is coming out of Benz and Pahiro and Lexus in the morning. Mommy wanted to be independent in a Rapunzel, but these is your friends. I don't care if you don't like them. I said these is your friends. Did you hear me? Hello. What did I said? And look at this. You are to learn to listen. You listen, and any children who you hear them say their mother and father shop at Costco, turn in the next direction. But you see, I know you listen Rapunzel, and you hear them say that their mother and father go to Miami and LA and New York every weekend, then you have to sit down beside them and help them with them homework, you know, because them they kind of picnic custom to dance. You hear what I say? You are to help them with them homework. Did you hear me? Hello. What did I say? And look at this. Another thing I want to talk to you about. You see, anytime you go to school and teacher say, sit down class, you are not to sit down beside any dry head coarse bugu bugu picnic. Did you hear me? I don't care if you are in their favor. I said, don't sit beside them. Hello. What did I say? You are not to sit beside them, Rapunzel, because scientific study prove, you see, that bald head is catching. Oh, now, look at this. Another thing I want to talk to you about. You see, when you get a little older and you get up into big class and you start to talk to boy, you are not to talk to any broke pocket barefoot kaba kaba boy. Did you hear me? Hello. What did I say? I said you're not to talk to any of them. Rapunzel, you see, like if I black a card you, try going like you never hear it yet. And as for Bello, that is what you call kaba, 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 kaba. Rapunzel, Bello carry so sardine sandwich go school every day, you know. And Bello father drive ladder. That a car, that a car. I say you are not to talk to Bello and Blacker. I don't care if you come from the same district. Do not talk to Bello and Blacker. Hello. What did I say? Rapunzel. You see, like Tony now, Rapunzel. Rapunzel. Tony's the kind of boy mommy want to see talking to at school, you know. You see how Tony's skin pretty, and Tony hair pretty, and Tony eye fever puss. Oh, Rapunzel. So, Rapunzel, so what if Tony's a bum? And so what if his father is a consultant who thief money out and bank? That is not important. Tony have the right attribute, and Tony is not a kaba kaba. Do not back answer me.